I think we can all agree that eating at a restaurant has become like ridiculously priced in the past few years.
In American restaurants, you're paying over $20 for microwaved frozen food.
I'm at my job at Denny's, and it's literally not a singular customer, and we are empty.
You know what's crazy? A burger and fries on the Vegas Strip now cost more than a hand of blackjack, and you've got better odds winning at the table. We're watching something unprecedented unfold in Sin City and across America. Restaurants sitting empty on Saturday nights, servers making $9,000 a month while customers vanish, and $300 dinner bills becoming the new normal. This isn't just about expensive food anymore. We're witnessing the complete collapse of America's dining industry. In Vegas, we're ground zero for this economic disaster that's about to reshape everything you know about eating out. The price shock. Reality that's killing Vegas tourism. Here's the deal. That $20 microwaved meal at Denny's isn't just overpriced, it's economic suicide for Vegas's entire tourism model. When a couple can't grab dinner without dropping $50 minimum, and they don't even drink, something's fundamentally broken. Look at what's happening on the Strip right now. Drinks hit $50 each, basic meals push $40 per plate, and that's before the automatic 20% gratuity they slap on everything. We're talking about families coming to Vegas for vacation and spending more on one dinner than their hotel room costs. That's not sustainable, folks. The numbers are absolutely brutal. Restaurant prices jumped 50% in just 2 years, while portions shrunk by a third. You're literally paying more for less food, and it's not even good food anymore. These places are serving Sysco frozen products, the same stuff they serve in hospitals and jails, dressed up with fancy plating and a $30 price tag. What kills me is watching tourists realize they've been scammed. They come to Vegas expecting an experience, and instead, they're getting cafeteria food at fine dining prices. One couple I talked to from Miami paid $300 for dinner at an Asian fusion place in Wynwood. 2 people, no special occasion, just regular dinner. $300. The psychological impact on tourism is devastating. When visitors feel ripped off at restaurants, they don't come back to Vegas. They tell their friends, they post reviews, and suddenly our entire economy based on discretionary spending starts crumbling. Vegas lives or dies on repeat visitors, and we're burning through goodwill faster than chips at a hot craps table. This pricing insanity has created a death spiral. Higher prices mean fewer customers, which means restaurants raise prices even more to cover fixed costs. Meanwhile, commercial rents on the Strip keep climbing, food costs stay elevated, and labor wants more money because they can't afford to live here either. The math simply doesn't work anymore. But here's what really gets me. Restaurants know they're dying, but won't change. They'd rather squeeze the last dollars from remaining customers than adapt to reality. Empty tables on Saturday nights. The death of Vegas nightlife. I can walk down Central Avenue on a Friday night and film empty restaurant after empty restaurant for you. This isn't hyperbole. This is Vegas 2025, where the party's over and nobody wants to admit it. Local musicians are seeing it firsthand because gigs are disappearing faster than free drinks at a casino. When restaurants sit empty, live entertainment gets cut first. The entire ecosystem of Vegas nightlife, servers, bartenders, performers, valet guys, it's all collapsing because people stopped showing up. Tourism dropped 50% this summer, and locals, they're cooking at home. You want to know how bad it's gotten? Walk into any restaurant at 7:30 on a Saturday night, prime dinner rush, and count the empty tables. I'm seeing 70% vacancy rates at places that used to have 2-hour waits. Jinx, which used to be the spot in Summerlin, looks like a ghost town on weekends. The economic multiplier effect here is devastating Vegas particularly hard. Every empty restaurant table means less tips for servers, less hours for cooks, less orders for suppliers. That server making $52 an hour in tips? Those days are numbered. When volume drops, even high percentage tips on expensive meals can't make up the difference. What's really happening is a fundamental shift in consumer behavior. People aren't just eating out less, they're completely changing how they think about restaurants. That once or twice a week dinner habit? Gone. Now it's once a month, maybe, and only if there's a special deal. The psychology is flipped entirely. Restaurants used to be about convenience and experience. Now every meal out feels like financial punishment. When grocery stores are already expensive and people still choose cooking at home, you know the restaurant industry's cooked. Local spots are getting crushed even worse than chains. That Mexican place in North Jersey sitting empty on Saturday night? That's every local restaurant in every city now. They can't compete on price with fast food, can't match the quality of home cooking, and can't justify their existence to cash-strapped customers. It's economic natural selection, and they're going extinct. The Sysco food scam everyone's finally noticing. Let me break down the dirty secret destroying restaurants from the inside. They're all serving the same frozen Sysco garbage. Whether you're paying $15 at Applebee's or $45 at some trendy Vegas gastropub, it's the same pre-packaged, microwaved slop. This isn't conspiracy theory nonsense. Restaurant owners openly admit this. They're competing over who can present frozen food the best, not who can actually cook. Your $30 artisanal burger? Frozen patty. Those $13 truffle fries? Frozen bags from the same supplier everyone uses. The house-made red sauce they're charging $6 for? It's literally ketchup with a fancy name. This is fraud on a massive scale, and customers are finally catching on. The economics of this scam are simple. Restaurants discovered they could fire skilled cooks, hire minimum-wage microwave operators, and pocket the difference. Food costs dropped, labor costs dropped, but prices, those kept climbing. For a while, they got away with it because people didn't know better. But social media changed everything. Now everyone knows about the Sysco truck pulling up to their favorite farm-to-table restaurant. People are posting videos comparing menu items to frozen food packages. The emperor has no clothes, and the whole industry's panicking. Vegas restaurants are particularly screwed because we built our reputation on excess and quality. When Gordon Ramsay's restaurant is serving the same frozen beef as Denny's, just plated prettier, why would anyone pay 5 times more? The trust is broken, and once customers lose faith in restaurant quality, they don't come back. That's an economic death sentence in a tourist economy. What makes this worse is the sheer arrogance of restaurant owners. They know customers are onto the scam, but instead of improving quality, they're doubling down with Instagram-worthy plating and ambiance. Putting frozen food on a wooden board with microgreens doesn't make it worth $40. Customers aren't stupid. They're just finally acting like it. The millennial restaurant bubble that's about to pop. You've seen these places. Exposed brick, Edison bulbs, drinks served in mason jars, burgers that cost $29. Every city's got dozens of these identical, unique spots, and they're all about to go bankrupt. The millennial burger joint phenomenon represents everything wrong with modern restaurants. 2 brothers with a crazy idea? More like 2 guys with the same Pinterest board as everyone else. They're charging $40 for a basic burger while serving drinks in measuring cups, like that's quirky instead of stupid. The entire business model is built on Instagram photos, not repeat customers. Here's the economic reality these places ignore. Novelty wears off, but high prices don't. Once customers realize they're paying premium prices for average food in an uncomfortable setting, they're gone forever. Those tiny tables crammed together, the deafening acoustics, the pretentious menus, none of it justifies the cost. Vegas tried to import this trend, and it's failing spectacularly. The math behind these restaurants is delusional. They're paying massive rents for trendy locations, spending fortunes on design, hiring social media managers instead of decent cooks. Their break-even point requires packed houses every night at premium prices. When volume drops even 20%, they're underwater immediately. The venture capital fueling these places is drying up fast. Investors are realizing that restaurants with 60% failure rates in 3 years aren't good bets. Without fresh capital, these places can't survive their own burn rates. We're about to see a massive wave of closures, especially in expensive markets like Vegas. What's particularly damaging for Vegas is these places targeted younger tourists, the future of our economy. When millennials and Gen Z get burned by overpriced, underwhelming experiences, they don't come back. They don't gamble, they don't show, they don't book rooms. We're literally pricing out our next generation of customers. The server income paradox that's breaking the system. Here's where things get really twisted. Servers posting TikToks bragging about making $9,000 a month while their restaurants die around them. They're pulling $52 an hour from tips alone, more than paramedics, teachers, or most professionals. This isn't sustainable, and everyone knows it. The moment servers started broadcasting these incomes, customers started cutting tips. The economic psychology here is fascinating and destructive. When people struggling to afford groceries see servers making six figures, the social contract of tipping breaks down. Customers feel like suckers subsidizing someone else's luxury lifestyle. The anger is real, justified, and growing every day. Vegas servers are particularly tone-deaf about this. They're posting income flexes while tourist volume crashes and locals stop dining out entirely. You can't shame people into tipping when they can barely afford the meal itself. The entitlement is staggering, and it's accelerating the industry's collapse. What servers don't understand is they're killing their own golden goose. Every day in my life making $1,600 in tips video pushes more customers away permanently. People are reverting to 15% tips or flat $5 regardless of bill size. Some stop tipping entirely out of spite. The economic model of American restaurants depends on customers voluntarily subsidizing labor costs through tips. When that social contract breaks, the entire system collapses. Restaurants can't afford to pay servers $50 an hour directly. Customers won't accept 40% price increases to cover proper wages. This is creating a vicious cycle unique to Vegas's service economy. High tips attracted workers, but high prices drove away customers. Now we have too many servers fighting over too few tables. Hours are getting cut, income's dropping, and suddenly that $9,000 month becomes $2,000. The correction that's coming will be brutal. When tipping culture finally dies, and it will, Vegas's entire service industry wage structure implodes. Vegas tourism collapse. Why nobody's coming anymore? Hey, I'm unemployed, I just got thrown off Medicaid, want to go to Vegas? Nobody says that, but that's exactly where America's at right now. Tourism to Vegas plummeted 50% this summer, and it's not recovering. The economics are simple. Vegas is a discretionary spending destination. When people are choosing between groceries and gas, they're not booking flights to gamble. The multiplier effect of this collapse is destroying our entire economy. Every missing tourist represents lost revenue for hotels, restaurants, shows, shops, and casinos. We built a city on the assumption that people would always have disposable income. That assumption was catastrophically wrong. What's happening now is unprecedented in Vegas history. Even during the 2008 crisis, we bounced back within 2 years. This time's different because the entire middle class, our core customer base, is getting destroyed. They're not coming back because they can't afford to exist, let alone vacation. The restaurant situation is the canary in the coal mine. When people won't even eat out locally, they're definitely not flying to Vegas for overpriced meals. Every empty restaurant represents dozens of potential tourists who heard about the ridiculous prices and chose somewhere else. Orlando's cheaper. Branson's cheaper. Hell, staying home is definitely cheaper. The psychological damage to Vegas's brand might be permanent. We marketed ourselves as the place where regular people could feel like high rollers. Now we're just another expensive city pricing out the working class. When a beer costs $18 and a burger hits $40, we've lost the plot entirely. The convention business that used to save us? That's dying too. Companies can't justify sending employees to a city where a basic dinner runs $100 per person. Virtual meetings killed the mandatory conference, and Vegas prices killed the voluntary ones. The convention center's running at 40% capacity, and that's with heavy discounting. Sports tourism was supposed to be our savior. We got the Raiders, the Golden Knights, Formula One, and what happened? Those events bring rich people who stay for 48 hours max. They don't gamble, they don't explore. They watch their event and leave. Meanwhile, we priced out the regular tourists who used to stay for a week. The math doesn't work. Trading 5-day visitors for 2-day visitors is economic suicide. The corporate restaurant monopoly strangling Vegas. What nobody's talking about is how corporate consolidation destroyed Vegas dining. MGM, Caesars, and Wynn control 80% of strip restaurants now, and they're all running the same playbook. Jack up prices, cut quality, minimize staff, maximize extraction. It's not about hospitality anymore. It's about quarterly earnings reports. These corporations killed independent restaurants through predatory lease practices. They charge insane rents that only national chains can afford, then take percentages of revenue on top. A small family restaurant can't survive paying $50,000 monthly rent plus 15% of gross sales. Only Sysco-supplied chains with massive backing can play that game. The economic stranglehold extends beyond just rent. These casinos control liquor licenses, parking access, even where employees can eat lunch. They've created a monopolistic ecosystem where they own every transaction. Want to open a restaurant? Better be ready to give the house 40% of everything. This consolidation destroyed price competition entirely. When three companies control everything, they can coordinate prices without officially colluding. Notice how every strip restaurant charges the same $18 for a beer? That's not coincidence. It's economic manipulation at its finest. Labor gets crushed in this system too. Corporations bust unions, hire temporary workers, classify everyone as part-time to avoid benefits. The servers making those big tips? No health insurance, no retirement, no security. One slow month and they're destroyed financially. The ripple effects hit local suppliers worst. Small farms, local bakeries, craft breweries. They can't get contracts anymore. Everything goes through massive distribution companies owned by the same corporations. We've created a vertically integrated monopoly that's squeezing every dollar from every angle. The credit card debt bomb about to explode. Here's the terrifying part nobody wants to discuss. Most Vegas tourists are funding their trips with credit cards they can't pay off. We're watching people go into debt for overpriced meals they'll be paying interest on for years. The average Vegas visitor now leaves with $3,000 in charges. At 24% interest, that's a $750 yearly fee just for one weekend trip. Restaurant spending on credit increased 400% since 2019. People aren't paying cash for these $300 dinners. They're financing them. When that credit bubble pops, Vegas dies overnight. The entire economy depends on people spending money they don't have. Banks are already tightening credit limits, raising interest rates, and cutting rewards programs. Every restriction means fewer tourists, less spending, more empty restaurants. The psychological shift from cash to credit changed everything. People feel less pain swiping a card than handing over bills. Restaurants exploited this psychology by making prices so high that nobody carries enough cash. You can't pay for a $400 dinner with 20s, so the credit card comes out. But reality's setting in now. Those credit card statements are arriving, and people are horrified. The couple who didn't flinch at a $300 dinner is now staring at a $4,000 monthly statement. They're not coming back to Vegas anytime soon. The default rates on leisure spending are exploding. Credit card companies are seeing Vegas-related charges defaulting at twice the normal rate. When lenders realize Vegas trips are high-risk loans, they'll restrict spending here specifically. Imagine credit cards blocking Vegas transactions, like they do for online gambling. The real estate connection nobody sees coming. Empty restaurants mean empty buildings, and Vegas has massive exposure to commercial real estate collapse. Every failed restaurant leaves behind a lease, and those leases are bundled into commercial mortgage-backed securities. Sound familiar? It should. It's 2008 all over again. When restaurants can't pay rent, landlords can't pay mortgages. Strip properties are leveraged at insane ratios. These casinos borrowed billions, assuming restaurant rent would always increase. Now they're facing vacancies, and the debt service doesn't stop. One major property default could trigger a cascade that makes 2008 look mild. The valuation crisis is already starting. Commercial properties are valued based on income generation. Empty restaurants mean lower valuations, which means banks demand more collateral. When casinos can't provide that collateral, credit freezes instantly. Local restaurant real estate is even worse. Strip malls full of empty restaurants, standalone buildings sitting vacant, entire neighborhoods becoming food deserts. Property taxes based on inflated valuations are crushing remaining restaurants. They're paying taxes on 2019 values while generating 2025 revenues. The residential impact is next. Restaurant workers can't pay mortgages when hours get cut. Vegas has 200,000 people directly employed in food service. When they start defaulting, our entire housing market craters. We're already seeing early indicators. Restaurant worker mortgage applications dropped 70% year over year. These are people who had stable income for decades, suddenly unable to qualify for basic loans. That's an economic tsunami approaching, and nobody's preparing for it. Vegas restaurants aren't just empty. They're watching an entire economic model collapse in real time. When tourists stop coming and locals stop eating out, there's no recovering from that. Want to see how bad it really is? Drop a comment about your worst Vegas restaurant ripoff. Subscribe for more brutal Vegas economic truth.